Alrighty, so if you're like me and you have been getting all of your rewards from your stuff and not skipping anything, I am personally getting my UR seasonal ticket tomorrow because I don't think that there's any other way for me to actually get any more of these jumping box tickets today. But yeah, we're going to be going over who I would recommend you pick from this thing because honestly, it's really good value and there's a couple of decent characters in here that you might want to choose over others, of course. So at first, we're going to go over some of the characters, and then I got a comment from Kiyu last time that I did a video kind of like this where she was saying that I should use a tier list sort of format, so I have that over on the other monitor. We'll bring that over once I get to that part. But if you're new to the channel or anything, feel free to subscribe. We're on the road to 15K, and honestly, things are going really well right now because of the whole festival and everything. Super hype. So if you want to, stick with the channel, hang out, enjoy your time, feel free. Either way, let's talk about these characters because we're going to go over their passives because honestly, that is basically what is the most important part of each of these characters and kind of what makes them good. So first off, we have this we have this red Valentine's Day Elaine. The big thing here is that she is going to basically increase ally. So if you're using a deathmatch team, because she does only work in death matches, which is maybe a little unfortunate, but she's really, really good at what she does. If you're running a deathmatch team that relies on buffs, so if you're already using the Summer Diane team for OG Demon, or if you're using maybe the Belmoth team with the attack-related stats increases and stuff like that. You can potentially... That one's not as good because you're only getting one buff, but you basically get more stats out of each of your buffs, which is really good. So it says increases allies' stat-related buffs by half of their values in Deathmatch. So it's basically giving you like an extra boost to each of those buffs, which is really, really nice. Honestly, I think for a lot of scenarios, as long as it's a deathmatch, she ends up being pretty much best in slot for the backline in a lot of scenarios. Plus, if you can get her, she has like Valentine's Day outfits that you can put on that I think guarantees you a cosmetic upgrade material, if I'm not mistaken. I might be thinking of a different unit, but I'm pretty sure that's how she works. Next up, we have this Wedding Diane. She came out a long time ago. Unfortunately, she's not great. Her passive is increases giant allies' damage dealt by 40%, and she does work in the back slot, which sounds pretty decent on paper, but when you realize that there's not a whole lot of giants in this game, and most of the good ones are Diane's, which means you cannot run the stand with her, it ends up being a little bit lackluster, which is unfortunate. I was really hoping that they would try to add more giants with some of their original content, maybe the 7 catastrophes, maybe one of them could have been a giant, or the Ragnarok story could have added some giants. They obviously still can. There are a couple of giants in the story for that, but none of them are playable as of yet besides Scotty, which is a good unit. I'm not going to knock on Scotty, but would love some extra giants to sort of help pad out that race because giants and fairies really don't get a whole lot of love in this game. Next up, we have Matrona. Matrona is a pretty decent character. She was really, really good back when Bird originally came out. She ended up being like one of the best characters that you could use for it. Her passive is for every 1% of the hero's diminished HP, increases allies' regeneration rate by 2% at the start of the allies' turn. So this is really good because she has a taunt card, and it actually taunts for several turns. It's 3 turns. Just by level 1, which is, pretty insane to think about because it lasts for so long. But basically, you just want her to tank all of the damage. Once she gets really low, the turn will tick over, your regeneration rate kicks in, and it basically heals all of your characters by a really good amount, depending on how much HP she was missing. So she can actually be really good. She's kind of fallen out a little bit. She's not necessarily as good as she used to be. There's not a whole lot of scenarios where I actually want to use this character unless I'm just running like a full-on giant team or something like that. Obviously, she is still a good choice for some of the demonic beast battles if you really want to use her, but at this point in the game, there are better units out there if you already have those, namely maybe like Festival Diane is a really good character to use instead. Obviously, she's not going to help you regenerate as much HP back, but she does a lot more damage, and her, if you have her Holy Relic, for example, she's just going to increase allies' damage dealt, which is really good. Next up, we have this red Danafor Liz. All of the Danafor Liz's are actually Christmas units, which is kind of funny, but this one specifically is locked down to only time-limited dungeon, which is very weird. This was a very odd character when she came out. Easy skip, to be honest, but as somebody who likes to mess around with each and every character, especially stuff for like PvE content and everything, this character is pretty underrated. I think that she's very, very good at what she does. Obviously, it's very niche, and you don't necessarily need to have her 99% of the time when you're playing the game, but as time-limited dungeon does reset every single week, and you get different, or well, I guess technically it's not every week. You get a dungeon key for it every 2 weeks, which, you know, you're doing it pretty consistently. You will get use out of this unit if you have her, but it is when an ally uses a skill in time-limited dungeon, it deals additional damage equal to 40% of the enemy's HP increase by a unique or buff. And if you're unaware, a lot of the enemies in that mode do have HP, you know, increases from, you know, buffs. So, or well, uniques, actually, they're passives. So she ends up being really good. She just helps you sort of farm those stages a lot faster, a little bit more consistently, which is really, really nice, because obviously the more consistent you can do it and the more damage that you can deal, the higher difficulty that you can run on it, and the more resets you can technically do if you don't get good rewards. So that honestly is just really good in of itself. You can get much more SA coins and stuff out of your runs if you know, have a run where you don't end up dropping a box on phase 1 or whatever. You can reset. You have more room to do so. It's not as like do or die. You're not going to run out of time necessarily as fast with this unit on your team, which is really nice to have. Last but not least, we have Summer Diane, who I think is by far the best choice, just because OG Demon is an integral part of the game at this point. If you are unaware, she is a deathmatch only unit as well. And her passive is increases allies' skill ranks at the start of the allies' turn if the allies in deathmatch are all from different races. That is a big key point. Increases their basic stats by 30% and applies debuff immunity for 3 turns. So this is really, really big, because that's immediately going to put 4 buffs on all of your team, which is really great because she has an amplify skill, so it takes advantage of all of those buffs. And most of the time for OG Demon, a lot of people are using Trader Melee, who also has an amplify skill, so you can get a lot of use out of those buffs as well. So the fact that she immediately ranks all of your cards up to level 2 means that if you have a Gother on your team as well, you can immediately rank everybody up to level 3s, which is great. If both of your team, if you and whoever you're running the deathmatch with both have this character, it's just an easy, you know, rank 3s across the board, like right at the beginning of the, you know, the match, which is awesome. Just super, super great. Honestly, she deals a lot of damage. I actually use her on attack crit damage when I play OG Demon, and I can basically guarantee damage cap with both of these cards, depending on the team that we're using. If we have a Kizuna on the team, I can normally get really close to damage cap with this card. Obviously, it's not going to do as much because it's for some reason an AoE skill, even though she's literally designed for deathmatch, and there are no AoE, or like there's no deathmatches where you're fighting more than one opponent, at least at the moment. So I don't know if that'll eventually come into play sometime in the future, but yeah, a little bit weird there. Her ultimate is kind of nice as well because it increases your damage dealt, so I personally don't ever get the ultimate off. So don't necessarily know that I would say, like, yeah, you should go for dupes on this character, but let's look at the tier list. So first and foremost, this is kind of where I'm at with it. Diane is just super, super good. OG Demon is a piece of content that you're going to be running consistently as you play the game. Like, you're gonna have to farm out those OG Demon Flames so that way you can get characters to level 100, so I highly recommend you grab her if you do not have a copy of her. If you already have a copy of her, I would highly recommend maybe grabbing one of these other 2 units first. Like I said, the Liz is just really good to help consistently sort of increase damage dealt on the time-limited dungeon. You're gonna be running that every 2 weeks, hopefully, because those, you know, it's actually really worth running, either whether you're doing the Anvil stage or the the coin dungeon stage, and they also have the chaos fragment stage as well, but I don't personally run that one right now because I don't really think that it's as important as me being able to super awaken characters and make gear for them, because that's obviously a very integral part of the game. I really, really do like this Elaine. She comes in handy more often than not if there's ever an event boss dungeon or something like that, or an event boss that comes out, say for collaborations or whatever the case may be. Normally they end up coming out with a boss that you can run with a friend. All of the deathmatch units work in those game modes as well, so you can run Diane on the team as long as you use a different race character for each of your allies. You know, she's still going to proc her passive, which is really nice. If you have green Danafor Liz, which you should, because I'm pretty sure she's in the hero's way as well, you should be able to proc that passive off as well. So just having this character to be able to throw in the back slot, get more use out of your buffs and stuff, just very, very good in general. I really like it. I think that she's super, super useful, especially for OG Demon, just being able to get extra, damage off and just be more consistent overall, which is great. Matrona's in A tier. I think that she's still a pretty good unit. She's overall really nice, but I just personally don't get a whole lot of use out of her anymore. This is obviously all my opinion. If maybe you don't have Festival Diane, maybe you're just lacking a decent amount of taunt units or something for some PvE content like the Demonic Beast, you could potentially go ahead and grab a copy of her if you wanted to, but I would say if you don't have a copy of any of these characters first, probably not. And then if you are just missing Wedding Diane, you just don't have her in general, and you already have at least one copy of all of these other characters, maybe grab her. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of situations where she's even useful because most of the good Dianes, or most of the good Giants are Dianes, so you're not really even going to be able to get her passive off unless they just maybe add more, Giants in the future, which is definitely a possibility, but at the moment, it does not look good. So that is basically where I'm at with this thing. If you have any thoughts or opinions, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I already have each of these characters, to be honest with you, so I think what I'm going to end up doing is just grabbing an extra copy of the Summer Diane, so that way when I do end up getting her passive off, I guess it'll just be a nice little boost, because she's probably the only character that I'm using on the field that I actually end up getting her ultimate at all. So I guess that'll just be kind of nice for me. But if you don't have any of these characters, obviously, having a character is much better than, not being able to use the character when you do want to. So grabbing a copy of somebody who you don't have any copies of is obviously, I think, the best situation to go for. Obviously, some of them are better than others, so make your choice wisely, because we don't get these kind of things very often. Yeah, obviously, I've kind of said my piece on it. If you have any thoughts or opinions, or just different opinions other than mine, maybe you're getting more use out of some of these characters that I'm not actually getting use out of, let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one.